Welcome in to the Charge On podcast. I am Dallas Wilson, your host, joined as always by Pastor Wayne Bray. LP, as I've been calling you.
For short.
LP for lead pastor. That's a lot shorter than Pastor Wayne. And we got a new guest here today. Maybe the prettiest guest we've ever had, except for Miss Amy. I mean, for sure. But
Wow.
you, blonde-haired Thomas, Swole Thomas is joining the podcast.
Ready.
I appreciate y'all having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, our gathering pastor at Upstate Gathering Lawrence. So, man, we're super glad to have you in today.
Glad to be here.
Man, Thomas, for the people who are maybe new to the podcast, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you do at Upstate Church, and tell us how things are going at Lawrence.
Yeah, so the fun fact I always got to start with is I was adopted as a child from Ukraine. So,
man, we're jumping right in on the podcast
Super
today.
easy.
Going personal, man.
When you're in college, what's your fun fact, your major? And so it's super easy. But yeah, grew up in Lawrence County, went to Anderson University, got my undergrad and master's from there, and joined the residency program as one of three to begin it here. And so it was
the
amazing.
first group. Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe time for a little confession here. I was in Thomas's interview, and afterward, Pat said, "What do you think about this guy?" And I said, "Not real sure, Pat. Not real sure."
I actually do not blame him. I do not blame him.
But you won me over. I would definitely hire you again
I
over and over
appreciate
again.
that.
Yeah.
Dallas was clearly intimidated by your guns. That's all it was.
Zero chance.
He's got that jacket on, so you can't really tell, but his arms are massive.
No way. But yeah, so I joined the residency program, started with sports ministry and student ministry with Brandon, and from there, it was kind of a series of events that I couldn't have even planned on my own.
Sure.
But God ordained and really just led me to where I am now, gathering pastor, working with sports as well. So super excited.
Tell people a little bit about the journey of the Lawrence gathering. Like right now, running about 150 on Sunday morning, but that's a big deal because been explosive growth, baptizing people. Tell us about what's going on there.
Yes, so really it started with 22 people that voted to merge on it. And so my dad was the pastor there when the merge took place, and 22 people voted and said, yeah, let's do this. We're on mission, and in Lawrence County, that's what we need. And so 22 people voted on it. We started it. My first full month as full-time pastor, we were probably running about 55 to 60. And since then, we've tripled in average. Last year in 2025, we broke 100 and 200 in the same year.
Yeah.
We baptized around 16 people, I think is the number, which is incredible for that. And it's just been amazing. I mean, even fun fact, before we even did some of the changes that we did at the sanctuary, somebody got married while it was Lawrence gathering.
Yeah.
And that was the first marriage that I got to do. So just a lot of cool experiences. I can remember the season of first there, the first child dedication, the first marriage, the first baptism. It was just such a sweet season. And now we're getting to build on top of that. And we're getting involved with schools in Lawrence County, with businesses and different organizations. It's been blowing up.
That's really cool.
So cool, man.
I do think people watching at home, listening to the podcast, they may not know a lot about church growth, but let's just explain it for them. Tripling in 1 year is good.
It's massive.
Yeah, I don't know if that sounds like a big deal, but that's a big deal.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened because I didn't do anything to make that happen, but truly God just blessed it.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of why the growth came is that you preach with a handheld mic. And your arm is flexed the entire time. I
do preach with a handheld mic. I love it.
That's
it's nice.
Yeah, man. Well, we're super proud of you. Super proud of what God is doing in Lawrence. I know it's got to have been kind of surreal for you because you were a part of the 22, right? Who were voted. You were a part of making the 22 vote that originally, and you just seen it grow from 22 to 172.
Well, always part of the conversation
That's
when we're meeting with churches that are praying about merging. It's always unique, but that was such a beautiful experience because unanimous. So there have been a few out of the 7 mergers we've gone through. 3 or 4 of them have been unanimous, and Hillcrest was one of those that it was just clear. And even then, we didn't even know when we talked with them about it. The recommendation from us to them was, we're not sure if this will be a church plant, if this will be a campus one day.
I forgot that.
Yeah,
there was
it
a
was
lot
very
of
much,
question marks.
It was very much like we're committed to do whatever it takes to make sure there's a gospel witness on this property, no matter what.
Yeah.
And those 22 people trusted the Lord and Upstate Church enough to say, we're in, and the rest is history. And I do think God really has blessed Thomas in a remarkable way, just because of his unique ability to kind of bring together a lot of young. I think there's like a marriage of young and old there. So we got the senior adults who primarily were there at the beginning, and then the folks that shout out to my goodness, Jim Phillips. Jim Phillips was there.
Jim and Kim.
And they did a great job and kind of got it up to the 60 mark or whatever. And but then when Thomas came in, like this wave of a lot younger now. Would you say that's true? Young families, a lot of kids, a lot of children.
Yeah, a lot of children. And just shout out Lindsay Barksdale. She's been killing it, and I don't know if I should admit to how much we're packing out that place, but I mean, we've
Fire marshal, don't listen, bro. You're good.
All right, wonderful. But we've definitely had over 30 kids at one time. It's been absolutely
30
insane.
kids at Upstate Gathering.
I think
That's
31
crazy.
is our most, and it was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So just an influx. And for a church that had not heard the cries or laughter of children in years, it was amazing.
Yeah. And some people who watch, even from our church, don't know the distinction between gathering. It's a great opportunity, right? Because when we say Upstate Gathering Lawrence, Upstate Gathering Union, why do we call those gatherings? Sometimes we have people even ask those kind of questions.
So somebody sent Jenna a text message the other day saying, what is a gathering?
Right.
They didn't go to our church.
So if you don't know, we have 10 locations, 8 campuses, 2 gatherings. Then we have language venues on those gatherings. And even in Simpsonville, there are multiple English venues. I mean, it's like, it's easier to just say location.
I think I'm kind of confused at this
Normally, we just say location.
That's right.
It's a little easier. But the gathering is like, what it allowed us to do is start a process to where we could merge with a church that's really small. So Union was similar, about 21, 22 people who voted, again, unanimously to merge. And right now, they're in a fellowship hall. Even the chapel, right after we merged with them, the HVAC went out, and so we moved them in the fellowship hall. They're up to 50 now.
Have doubled.
Unbelievable. But those during those transitional times, we can't go in and just pour millions of dollars into facilities and all that. So what it allowed us to do is have a season of growth and stability, put a teaching pastor in there like Thomas, and have time before we really say, hey, this is a campus. In the case of Lawrence, it's been a process of, we've already done facilities improvement a good bit, almost, I guess, all. A lot of the production and stuff has already been elevated. I think we just got a new projector and screen.
Man, it's a game changer.
All that
We're
kind of
high class now, bro.
Yes.
And then they've gone to 2 services. So it's kind of crazy, the whole distinction of like even a gathering has a wide gap, because you could be, we just merged with 20 people, or you're averaging now right at 150. And that is kind of the distinction, is a campus. When a campus averages about 150 and has about 75% of its budget need given, that's when the consideration for becoming a campus of Upstate Church becomes more official. So
the thing I love about us doing gatherings is that we really will say yes to reaching just one more.
That's right.
I think there are a lot of people who see Upstate Church and they probably assume, well, that's a massive church, massive budget. They're only interested in doing massive things. Yeah. And what we're interested in is just one more. Sometimes that looks differently.
We've talked a lot about our model and how our model probably has to evolve and change over the years to continue to grow.
For sure. You can't do everything all the time.
Efficiency becomes the biggest challenge. And we'll have another podcast about multi-site one day. But I do think the beauty of what we've been doing is, if there's a pastor out there and they just don't know what to do, or maybe a deacon watching and they're like, man, we're in a church. I've got 10 people. I've got 20 people. I don't know how to turn this corner. I mean, we want to help.
Yeah.
We want to help. And I can say right now, honestly, I hope I'm able to always say this, but we have never had an experience where God didn't bless it.
Yeah.
We've never merged with a church where it didn't turn around.
For sure.
That has not happened so far. And I'm hopeful and I'm grateful for number one, but I'm hopeful that'll continue to be true.
That's right.
Well, man, God has been doing some awesome stuff in Lawrence County. I'll tell you where else God is doing some awesome stuff. At the corner of Roper Mountain Road in Batesville, baby.
He's about to.
Man, so had a good day yesterday. I know, like, everybody in the church didn't come out, but there were a lot of people for the Five Forks groundbreaking yesterday.
Probably, what you think, 200, 150?
It's probably close to that. Yeah.
It's a good
and
crowd.
I would say people from every campus, it looked like.
Yes.
It was cool, man.
It was cold.
Bro, it was so cold.
Windy and cold.
Can I just tell you something? When you said, "Hey, we're gonna sing another worship song," I was like, "Man, I'm powering through right now," because when I left, I didn't have a jacket.
Straight up, when we were on the second song, and we were getting toward the end, we were like, wrap it up, buddy.
I literally I leaned over to Josh Morton, our worship guy, our worship pastor, and I said, "Hey, man, you worship guys are killing me right now." And I honestly feel like, though, that's just payback for me going over on sermons that they're like, "No, we're going to sing another verse right now."
Yeah, because when he started back with, "I will build," I'm like, "Oh, come on, Lord."
I was like, "There's no need for the third bridge, Joseph. All right, it's clearly cold out here." But I was like,
it was an encouraging day.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need my jacket. And then in that third bridge, I was like, I need my jacket. But yeah, super encouraging.
And tell them like how long that's been. 7 years coming.
That's what I was about to ask you. So we launched. Dustin and I were hired in 2018.
Yep.
HB obviously was already here, and then Five Forks 2019.
March 31st, 2019
was their first day in the doctor's office.
In the doctor's office.
All right, so I think some people probably need a little clarity on this. Upstate Church Five Forks meets off of the main road, Woodruff Road, right?
Yeah, right at the Forks, though.
Right at the Five Forks cross section. But there's like a restaurant and a pharmacy in front of it and a bank. And so if you're not particularly looking for Upstate Church Five Forks, you are not going to find it. And then if you are looking for Upstate Church Five Forks, you're first going to find a doctor's office sign, and then there's Upstate Church Five Forks in the back. And so we built out the other half of that doctor's office. Been great relationship with them.
About a 200-seat
I was about to say, but
center.
Not a big worship center.
No, I mean, we had to expand. So it was gravel floor when we found it. And they were really gracious to upfit it and charge us a lot of rent for the last 7 years.
Super gracious.
But the cool thing was, like, every time we hit the lid, they would give us more space for kids.
Yeah.
But Five Forks has been out of space, kind of like Lauren's, out of space for 5 years.
At least.
Since COVID, at least. You know?
I would say when we got back from COVID and they blew up and went from 2 to 3 services is when it really started getting tight. And, like, truly like nowhere to go for 3 years.
And for those who, again, watch, so you think 200-seat sanctuary, you don't think this could be possible, but they run 550.
Yeah.
Average. 5 to 600 average. And that's in a 200-seat sanctuary. So, I mean, you're doing 3 services. You got kids everywhere. It's bananas.
And running that much means that there are probably somewhere close to 1,000 people who call that campus home.
For sure.
And I think you probably see that like on Easter. This is insane. I'm not sure how this is possible, but when it comes Easter 2026, Five Forks will have like right at 1,000 people who attend that campus.
For sure.
And if you, it's just a fun game to we play called Where We're Going to Put the People at. Right. And if they don't have room for people, even kids, man, Five Forks blew up in kids super early on.
Yeah.
But when I go to preach at Five Forks, it's my favorite thing to just walk on the kids' hallway and, speak to the volunteers and watch the kids triumph over them because there are just so many kids at Five Forks,
But the cool thing is like that, you were just saying that, corner of Roper Mountain and Batesville, if you're not familiar with Greenville, is like one of the most strategic pieces of property in Greenville County.
Yes.
It really is amazing. And I'm grateful there's so many cars that go by that property every day. It's still in Five Forks, but it really pushes toward Greer, toward the, Roper Mountain is a road that goes all the way to 385.
Yeah.
It is going to be a great opportunity. Probably going to take us 12 to 15 months to build the building.
So we're thinking like spring of 27.
I guarantee Brian and Wes would say, let's say fall of 27.
Yeah, but they're a little too conservative. Sometimes you got to get a little daring.
I'm definitely the one who says spring, and then they come back and correct me, and then so I'll say fall.
All I know is
responsible.
yesterday we broke ground, and so there's nothing but air and opportunity, and the air's gone. Annie Jet, we were on the way. My 3-year-old, she said, "Where are we going?" And I said, to a groundbreaking. Her mom said, "We're going to a groundbreaking." She said, "I not know what that means." And her mom said, "Well, they're going to build a building at Five Forks." She said, "We're going to stay and watch them build the whole thing." I was like, I can promise you that Dustin wishes we were going to stay and watch them build the whole thing. But then we got out there with the shovels, and she said, "What they digging in the ground for?" She was like, "They're clearly hunting treasure here." But it was cool, and it was cool to see Wes and Dustin in hard hats. They had to mess up their hair a little bit.
Nice.
And I want to say, because you wouldn't say it about yourself or probably even Haywood campus, but I think it's super remarkable of what God's done at Five Forks, the way it's happened, unfolded. clearly we couldn't have possibly ever mapped out.
Right.
Nobody could have strategically planned. But through the crisis at Haywood and the roof caving in, being able to see Haywood say, "Hey, we're happy to go to the Civic Center. Going to be moving to Greenville Civic Center. It looks like
Right.
June, July.
Probably last part of July. Yeah.
That's a massive deal. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, between now and then. But that's going to be huge. Lift the lid for Haywood is going to be amazing. Going to grow like crazy. But reallocating, the church already voted overwhelmingly, 99%. Really was encouraged by that, to reallocate the money and go ahead and build Five Forks debt-free, which is massive. And so shout out to Haywood. Man, we're one church.
One church, baby. And, man, they're excited for it. Excited, honestly, to move ahead. I think the hard part for Haywood right now is this season of transition, right?
Yeah.
And I definitely looking forward to the convention center. But, hey, you know what? You'll blink your eyes and July will be here. So,
well, Roby said, hey, don't forget, we got to do the groundbreaking pretty soon.
Yeah. we'll give us about 36 months, and we'll get there. But, man, awesome. God's clearly just in control of all of it. So let's do a little sermon debrief. Man, I think it's been a really beneficial part of going through this Culture War series to have the podcast on the back end.
Yeah.
Because I do think it allows us to have a moment where we can follow up, maybe go a little bit deeper on some hard topics. And I think the word that I got most yesterday after the sermon was, man, this is a hard one, And so I'm super thankful for a moment just to chop it up with you guys about this hard topic, and about how, even though this is a hard topic, there's still plenty of grace available in it. And just to offer some clarity, there's some things yesterday that I got done with the sermon, and I was like, man, I wish I'd have had a few more minutes here or a few more minutes there.
What are some of the things you would have wanted to have elaborated on?
I wish I could have had a little bit more time at the end. Obviously it's always crashing a plane when I'm preaching, because you go too long and then you get to the end and you're like,
have you ever crashed the plane before the runway, or is it always?
I'm always running out of runway for sure. I wish I'd had a little more time to just talk about what Paul's doing at the end with verses 18 and 19 and 20, where he says you're a temple of the Holy Spirit, you were bought at a price. I wish I'd had some more time to really sit in that and to show like what he's doing for us is creating identity markers. He's saying, hey, you don't do X, not because just X is bad or it breaks the rules. You don't do X, but because you are Y.
Because of
That's
who
exactly
you are.
Right.
Yeah, and I wish I'd had some time to sit in there. I think when you're dealing with something like this too, though, elaboration on it helps, and then speaking pastorally on it helps. And so I got done yesterday, and I know I preached it well, and Jenna was just super encouraging. She's like, you said it exactly how the Bible says it, and that's really comforting to me. I'm not trying to win the applause,
because your wife is always going to be honest,
right? And I'm not trying to win the applause of people or not offend people.
Right.
But one of the things I wish I would have just had a few more moments to talk about was, hey, if you're here and this has not been your story at all, like I just. The grace of God is sufficient for you.
Sure.
Because sexual sin is more prevalent. And this was why I struggled in this sermon prep, because it almost seems in like a lot of the other topics we've been talking about, for the most part, those topics are out there. Gender dysphoria, that's out there. Abortion, I know people have had those at our church, but that's out there. This topic really, I just felt pastorally convinced, no, we need to talk about this in here.
Sure.
And so I just wish I could have.
It hits home with everybody
Yeah.
to some degree.
Yeah. I wish I could have spent some more time on there.
Did you think when you were talking about your body's a temple, you may not be this way, but I've had in the past, and let's ask Thomas, when have you heard that scripture quoted most of the time? Like if somebody said, don't forget your body's a temple.
Yes.
Has it been about sex, or has it been other things?
It's
what
about
else?
what you eat.
Isn't that
about
funny?
Keeping your body in shape. That's the only context I had ever heard it in. And
Me
so I'm
too.
like, all right, as long as I work out, then they can't tell me nothing. So,
Isn't that crazy to see the context?
yes.
Was totally, Paul is talking about sexual immorality.
Yeah, and like the people were just trading truth for a lie, because the people that he's talking to it's actually a wide variety of sexual morality, because Paul was addressing stuff he didn't even think he'd have to address.
Right.
Like this guy's messing around with with his father's wife and then the temple prostitute and all that. And he's saying,
it was Jerry Springer going on, man.
He's addressing it all at one time.
Yeah.
He's saying, just flee from all of it.
That's right.
Because they traded the truth for a lie. The lie being that what you did with your body actually doesn't matter because it's only your soul that matters.
Elaborate on that. That's super interesting to me. So in Greek philosophy, they believed that only the soul mattered. What was going on?
Yeah, so basically they were like, okay, as long as I go to church on Sundays, kind of sounds like our culture today, is like, as long as I can make it to church on Sunday, what I do during the week, Monday through Saturday, actually does not matter because it's only my soul that's going to go and be with God, not my body. And Paul's saying, actually, on the contrary. And the reason being is that if you believe that God the Father raised Jesus Christ from the dead, then you also believe that we also have a physical bodily resurrection. And so he's saying, on the contrary, your body also goes along with your spiritual health. Yeah. And so you cannot separate the two. And they believe that was the truth for them, that you could separate them.
Yeah. Greek philosophy, going back to Plato, said they had this motto, this slogan, the body is a tomb. And so the way to fully live was to get at the inner desires, right? I mean, that's pretty spectacular in common with what we think and do today, right? Just whatever you feel like on the inside, try to live that on the outside. I don't know that I'd ever given a ton of thought to that. Just this reality, like we're taking this thing with us. This body is going with us, and I'm glad it's going to be redeemed and it's going to be, glorified. But what you do with your body echoes into eternity.
That's right. Yeah. And I think so many times we treat it like a rental car. Listen, when I went to Anchorage, Alaska, we rented a car just for like 12 hours.
Drive.
I was like, I don't care. I want the fastest thing. Listen, any cops, you can't arrest me, whatever. But I was like, man, it's not my car. Any suspect noises, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to go as fast as I possibly can up to the speed limit. But that's how sometimes we treat our bodies, and that's the same lie that they were believing. That the whole YOLO movement, you only live once, so do what you want now, and then you'll whatever later. It's just, man, we treat it like a rental car.
Well, I think too, like when I was growing up, my dad would always, it's like a country preacher thing, man. But I heard a million times, you don't drink, smoke, or chew, or date girls that do.
Hey man,
hey man, and but that all that was in the name of your body's a temple.
That's right.
And it was all about don't do stuff that could hurt the temple.
Right.
Like that is totally like the mindset.
That's right.
Contextually, it's more like, here's what doesn't belong.
That's right.
Because of the holiness of the place.
That seems to be why he's saying all other sins are from outside the body.
Yeah.
The stuff that's coming from the outside of the body into the temple, it's not the problem.
Right.
It's the stuff that makes the temple dirty.
That's right.
And from the inside.
It's not about the physical. It's not about like harming the physical body as much as really harming or tainting the holiness.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when it says flee sexual immorality, it seems extreme, but when Jesus clears out the temple, there was nothing calm about it. And so it's almost this picture of like, you have to be aggressive with anything that does not belong to drive it out immediately. There is no letting it sit around and just have its way. You got to be aggressive, flee, run from it.
That's good. Hey, Jonathan, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a note that, like, I'm not against Scripture and I'm not against what he's saying.
That's good.
That's a good
just want to preface
prerequisite
this.
statement.
But I do want to say that I do think sexual immorality does actually affect your body.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a spiritual thing in the sense that now that we have a better understanding of, like, our bodies and modern technology, the ideas of like a dopamine and oxytocin release actually chemically binds your body to want whatever released that. Yeah. So then you are actually like enslaving your body to whatever it is.
Yeah, and for sure to clarify, we're not saying that the Bible says that all other sins come from outside the body. I actually think what you're saying is supported biblically before it was ever supported scientifically. He's saying there's something happening in here that's actually messing people up, which is super interesting. Gen Z may be the most sexually stunted group that we're ever going to have because of things like pornography damaging their psyche, damaging their body.
It's actually a social crisis.
Yeah. Explain that. That's a big term.
It's a little bit awkward to even talk about, especially, I'll be careful how, but I mean, the
children are listening.
Right. But the reality is that the younger generations fixation on technology and really like obsession with it. And I mean, honestly, I should say all of us now.
Yeah.
Because older generation too, the problem is we just didn't have it when we were
knew
younger.
what life was like without it.
So, but now that we have a generation of adults who literally never have lived a day without some form of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have had so many options to replace social interaction and relationships. And so they, number one, that's why we all are truly hungry. We're starving for real community with human beings. We don't really know it. It's part of the problem with getting into the birth rate. We always mention that, but we have not really dealt with it, and I don't have the statistics with me today, so don't ask me detailed questions. So that's another cause of the birth rate problem. It's because literally, it's interesting. Everything's premarital sex is going down.
Right.
You know, technically number of abortions are going down.
It's going down.
Yeah,
correct.
there are multiple things that are related, and we could even say, oh, that's a good thing. But the reasons they're going down are not spiritual. They are because they're finding satisfaction sexually in a technology world, not in the real world.
Right.
Yeah. Is that fair?
I think that's perfectly fair. And I think as pastors sometimes we see the back end of it. We see the damage it causes to young people as they're trying to get married and have relationships. Or the worst part of this, in my opinion, is the damage we see it does to marriages after people already are getting married.
Right.
In my mind, no sin promises as much and delivers as little as sexual sin does. And that's actually why I feel like maybe I was most troubled as I got to this sermon in the whole series. And you know this probably more than anybody, because last year, the year 2025, it actually became like this running joke between me, you, and Will on a text thread that every time I'd get a new marriage counseling case, I'd shoot you a text and be like, got another one, boys.
It was a tough year.
It was a super tough year, but it was the result in many of those cases, not all of those cases, but many of those cases, the reason I had multiple marriage counselings running and marriage counselings were increasing throughout the years because people were falling to the lies that sexual temptation offered them.
Yeah.
And never has any sin promised so much and delivered so little as sexual sin. Yeah.
I would say even the other lie is that, like for me being not married, like the lies often for the younger guys that you can actually turn on and off. Like this will all go away when I get married.
Right.
I will stop thinking this way when I get married. I will stop looking at these things when I get married. And the enemies convince you that you have control of this.
That's right.
In reality, you have no control over it.
And actually, that's a big part of the text. So Matthew, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, where he says, verse 18, flee. That verb flees like present perfect. And so that means instead of it just saying flee, it would actually sound like this in Greek. It would like make it your habit to flee.
Keep on running.
Yeah, I think some people think that at some point this switch is going to turn off. And it was super funny. This, you'll think this is funny. This 70-ish year old man came up to me yesterday, and he was being super kind, but he was 70, and he was talking about how when he was, maybe in his late 40s, early 50s, he and his dad were walking down the street, and a beautiful woman passed, and his dad, who at that time was really old, was like, whew, and he looked at him and was like, Dad. He's like, son, you think this just all goes away? And the point that guy made was like, when you say flee, it's not flee for a minute. It's not flee for a moment. It's make it your habit, because it was just kind of humorous that he reminded that battle. It's not an on and off switch.
No, and there's I wish that I didn't have multiple examples of people who are pastors and laymen over the years and even nowadays who, for various reasons in their 70s, have fallen to moral failures. And it seems like unthinkable. How is that? It's impossible. And I think that our thinking that it becomes impossible or becomes a thing that, it's not.
We're past that.
That's what then makes us vulnerable to fail.
Right.
I actually mentioned that reality. I think as you come to a sermon on sexual morality, there are two groups of people who will start to think, well, today's not for me. One of them's ladies. When you preach a sermon on sexual morality, most of the time the ladies are going to lean back because they think, well, the husbands need to lean in.
And the guys feel under fire, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, he doesn't say men flee. It's men and women. The truth is, sexual sin may look different at the start in the life of a woman, but the end destruction's the exact same. So women tend to lean back when you come to a sermon like this, but then older people tend to lean back. And this is a young person's battle, and it's just not. And I actually had multiple older people yesterday say, "Thank you for saying that."
Right.
And so that was really encouraging, man. Super interesting day. I think let's talk about for just a second the reality that in the society we live in, so 2026 America, there's a reality where we're just overwhelmed and overrun with sexuality. So sex sells, it's in advertising, it's in TV shows, it's in movies. American Eagle's most successful ad campaign of the last however many years was the Sydney Sweeney ad campaign. So there's this idea where American part of being an American is that the American society is overrun with this sexual ideology. I think the result of that is that we end up treating sex rather casually, it's diminished. So how does 1 Corinthians 6 help us to reclaim a high view of human sexuality?
Thomas?
Put me on the spot. All right.
Threw the curveball, man.
I think we first have to recognize of why God created it in the first place. It was all created for the context of marriage.
Yep.
And sex of any kind outside of marriage goes directly against God's word. And I think when we begin to kind of start conversations, well, what actually is sex, or what do I actually describe it? I think we're actually in the wrong headspace, and that's where we can kind of tell, okay, culture's kind of creeped in. Culture has actually convinced us that as long as we don't go too far over, but God has designed sex for marriage to unite a man and a woman, and in that marriage actually presents the perfect picture of love for his people, for his church.
Yeah, that's right.
And so just to try to diminish that value would be for us to actually miss God's love in that.
That's right.
And it's not as if God's trying to keep pleasures from us. It's not as if he's trying to restrict anything from us, to take anything away from us. It's actually that he's got something for us in the right season.
It's the opposite of restriction.
Exactly.
Really. Yeah. In a lot of ways, because any kind of boundaries is really the way that's best to probably communicate it. When it comes to marriage, is just the boundary.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It is the guardrail in which God designed for sexual relations to be experienced. And there were two primary reasons. We even talked about it in past weeks, or at least in gender and identity.
Right.
Because Genesis 1 and 2 really helps us understand procreation, obviously.
That's right.
Number one reason.
Right.
I don't care what anybody says. That's kind of clear.
It's
be fruitful
definitely the outcome.
and multiply.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And so that is a super significant part of why God created sex. But the second part of it is definitely for, I believe, I guess you could say, security and stability, lifelong certainty of a covenant relationship staying together.
That's right.
It's so it's not just procreation. It's part of intimacy within the covenant relationship. And so the major problem, and then obviously you could say third, pleasure certainly is part of that, but it's all, again, within the marriage relationship. Anytime that we've experienced it outside of that, or we even, it's not just about, I guess going to the extreme of the experience, but even pornography, even a picture. Forgive me for the specific example, but Victoria's Secret poster in the window walking down the mall. It doesn't take much for a man or a woman to allow their mind to go down a path that God is not pleased with, and that harms what God intended to be beautiful inside the covenant relationship.
Right. Paul here would have actually been throwing major curveballs to Greek society. Greek society in so many ways would have been like our society, that, sex is really not that big a deal. Yeah. It's casual. And he says, hey, do you not know that when you have intimacy, you become one with that person?
That's right.
And people would have been like, wait, what?
What?
That's crazy. Yeah. It's also interesting. You just said how there's a priority in the human experience, and we just tend to prioritize sexual fulfillment. It's a really weird outcome of modern society that is falling so in love with sex. I would say, to use the word Paul uses, is that they're dominated by sex. They're dominated by their desire for sexual pleasure. We have like almost mistaken the purpose of human existence.
Totally.
And it's sexual pleasure. So there's
a lot simpler than we make it.
That's right. Yeah.
It really is.
You as a person will not experience your greatest fulfillment as a human unless you experience sexual fulfillment. And the reason as Christians we have to just like push back on that and say, no, we don't necessarily believe that, is that the person who we believe was the most fully human person who ever lived, lived 33 years, and because he was not married, died as a virgin. You know, Jesus Christ, our Savior, never experienced the sexual fulfillment that so many in our society say you have to experience to find your true happiness. And so we've just really over prioritized it.
Yeah, well, everything boils down to, and this was kind of a framework for my gender and identity message, but I do think we've overcomplicated things. All sin boils down to, are we going to be the center of the universe, or is God?
That's right.
You know, is the worldview a secular worldview where it's about me and my pleasure, me fulfilling what I want, my satisfaction, my goals, my hopes, my dreams, or have I surrendered everything to chase after something that's bigger than me, that lives beyond death? Anyway, it's everything's that simple.
To your point, included. Yeah, that's exactly what Paul says. Paul says the body was not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord. What's at the center? Your pleasure or the Lord?
That's right. And that's why even when we have disagreements within marriage, or, you know, marriage counseling, you hear a ton of things, but like, you know, all of the things we argue about related to sexual relations, even within the marriage relationship, if it's about us, it's one thing. If it's about God,
that's right.
Then it changes the way we look at that. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it still is a different motivation, I guess.
We're talking about marriage this coming Sunday.
Yep. Come on.
But I always, just as a little game I like to play, and when I'm doing marriage counseling, there's usually one of three reasons that people are in my office.
Okay.
All right. I call them the big three. People only get divorced in general about the big three.
Money.
Politics?
No.
Oh, man.
Not politics.
Not even top 10.
Yeah.
Really?
Not even.
Maybe.
In general, religion's most of the time not in it.
For sure.
So money. You get
sex. Got to be sex.
Yeah. What's the third one?
I'm out of the game.
In-laws.
I'd say kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
In-laws got to be fourth.
Yeah, probably so.
And then politics. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, very early.
Politics number 5.
Yeah. Get me on the board.
Very early on in my ministry, I had a brother come up to me and say, "Man, I'd really love for me and my wife to sit down with you sometime. We've got a great marriage, except we argue about money and sex a good bit." And I was thinking to myself, brother, I don't know if you have as good of a marriage as you think you have, you know. But anytime somebody's in my office, it ends up being about one of those three things. I've never had a couple come in and tell me they disagree over politics, and that's why they need marriage counseling.
I have not either in 30 years.
Have you had
what I said?
I mean, you're not married. It's okay. Have you had couples come in for marriage counseling about in-laws?
You know, I wouldn't say it's always a factor. It is certainly a common denominator in conflict.
Yeah.
Because people come to counseling because they're experiencing conflict. People who want to get divorced generally don't come to counseling.
Yeah.
That's my first, I don't know if you ever did this, but like my first question is, do you want to stay married?
Yeah.
If not, let's save some time.
That's right.
Don't play a game, don't waste it.
That's such a good place to start.
I mean, like, I want you to stay married, but I don't want to spend the next 5 weeks investing in you.
And then you get divorced.
You've already decided.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to do whatever it takes, and you know, I'm not a professional counselor, by the way. This is probably terrible advice.
Mind blowing right here.
But if both spouses will make a commitment to me that they'll do whatever it takes to stay together, then I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, the people having trouble about the in-laws is just so crazy to me because I have the best in-laws
I really do too.
ever. You know, Nancy, if you're watching this,
That's right.
Love
That's
you.
right. Amy and I have never had that, but it is a common denominator that
Yeah.
I've felt like people have struggled.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk. We're getting ahead. We're getting to next week's sermon, man.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
so excited.
We're all in the marriage.
Hey,
Can't wait.
let's talk. Yeah. Are you preaching next week?
I am.
The unmarried man preaching on God's design
That's
for
really
marriage.
cool. We
That's
even had
awesome.
this conversation, me and Amy, about Josh Pratt. Josh is married, but he's preaching at Anderson to a lot of
Unmarried
people who are not
Yeah.
married. But the cool thing, a single man can look in the Word and see what
This is
God's
what it
plan
means.
is for marriage.
For
and
sure.
and a married man can preach a message, and not only should
Right.
preach a message to a bunch of single people who are really close to married age, and say, "Here's what God's designed for
That's
marriage."
right.
So it's going to be cool. I
I'm
think.
excited. I really am.
Hey, let me throw out this question at you because let's make the podcast a little bit practical, maybe helpful for people. Paul, so there's actually one instruction in the whole passage. The one instruction is flee.
Run.
Yeah,
Yep.
run. All right. And so Paul writes with this one instruction. He says, okay, you're believing this lie, you're believing this lie, you're believing this lie. Here's what you should do about it. Run, flee. What does it look like to flee from sexual sin in real life?
Yeah, I would say that the reason most people fail with sexual immorality is not because they don't want to be faithful to God, but because they don't have guardrails in place to be able to kind of keep them back from that ledge. And when we talk about guardrails, we talk about going through the mountains and weaving. You see these guardrails on the side of the road, and there's about 700 feet straight to your death. And these guardrails are what keep you from going over the line. And so it's the same thing in our faith. We create all these aspects and guardrails that actually keep us from going over the line. And if you notice, those guardrails are actually further from the cliff than right on the edge.
That's right.
And so when we are talking about flee, constantly on that run, your guardrail should not be right at the line. It should not be how close can I get to sexual sin without it actually being sin. Because again, it's not
That's
about
right.
glorifying God. It's about glorifying you and how close can I get to glorifying me while still honoring God. It's still a lie. And
How many
so-
of those guardrails are like flawless, no problems, no scrapes, no dents? No,
you're definitely
right.
going to rub up against them.
Isn't
and
that
that's why
funny,
you-
though?
That's why
Yeah.
you take it far.
That's
And
right.
so, like, man, even some practical extreme guardrails, like for men who can't stop like their eyes can't stop wandering in public. Like maybe you don't go out in public during times that are like maybe you don't go to the gym when it's so popular, and maybe you delete social media. And man, we might think this is inconvenient, but you know who's not going to think it's inconvenient? The one we're with.
That's
so
right.
just
Right.
Hey,
having those guardrails.
you are the man who's been married the longest among us.
Almost 30 years.
30 years.
Hey, I'm
this
30.
year, right?
Hey, keep that in mind. I'm 30 at this time.
At this table, you are.
At the table. Yeah, so in August 10th, will be 30. Yeah, man, crazy.
Wow.
30
Okay.
years. And so Amy and I have some, I'll say they're pretty extreme. We shared them in small group last night. We have a small group in our living room, little known fact.
Pastor Small
Yeah,
Group.
man, pastor small group. It's just about 20, 15 to 20 people every week. We got more than that, but
Yeah.
people rotate. And so we always talk about the message that was preached that morning.
Yeah.
So we talked about this last night. And ours, I felt like were extreme, but it's interesting in that group. A
Yeah.
lot of people not in ministry have some similar ones. But some of the things we've done in our marriage that have been super practical is like our boundaries are simple, all shared. There are no secrets. They're all shared passwords, all
Yeah.
shared accounts. There's no private account of mine.
Yeah.
Now, the hard thing in ministry is that means Amy is privy to any confidential information.
Yeah.
And I just tell people that. If they say, well, this is your eyes only, well, let me just go and tell you, it's for 4 eyes.
Yeah.
Because Amy's going to see it. I don't want any venue, any avenue for any person, I'll say, but obviously any woman primarily, but nowadays you never know, to send me anything that I alone see.
Right.
Or that I know there's no way Amy saw that.
That's right.
And that has proven to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because there have been times where literally, I mean, even years ago where somebody might send something and Amy's like this gift of discernment antenna, man, which I think most wives have.
Yeah.
She has multiple times just said, stay away.
That's right.
And sometimes I'd be like, wow, what are you talking about? And she's like, stay away.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you said a minute ago. I would rather, and I have, I mean, a previous church, I'll just go ahead and say, real life example. I had a woman who literally told other people, I don't know why, man, Wayne shakes everybody's hand but mine. I mean, he comes by and he doesn't even, he's just so rude. And it was just like, that's the best compliment I ever had.
Yeah.
Because Amy said, watch out.
Yeah.
And I would rather have members upset with me than for my wife to think that I would be vulnerable in that position.
I think there's a reality where everybody's going to be a legalist about something.
Yeah.
All right. And I've determined that sexual immorality is where I'm going to be a legalist about. And so if I get to heaven, I said this yesterday in the sermon, if I get to heaven and Jesus is like, Dallas, welcome in, my well done, my good and faithful servant. Welcome in to your reward. By the way, just one thing that you could have done a little bit better on, you were a super legalist about this. You were a legalist about protecting your family, about honoring your wife, and about making sure you finished well.
You could have loosened up a little.
Yeah, I would. If at that point, what I'll do is I'll say, Lord, my bad, you know. And this is how I think through it. I'm not the smartest person in any room I walk into, but they did teach me early on that 2 + 2 = 4. All right, every time 1 + 1 = 2. And so if my intention is to never dishonor my wife, if I never put myself in a position to dishonor my wife, I will then never dishonor my wife. Right. 2 + 2 = 4. And I mean, practically, there are some things that here's what that means. It doesn't mean that I won't meet with a woman. Listen, I am so privileged to be able to pastor as a part of this church. And if any woman needs advice from their pastor, we will meet. And the good news about my office is there's a big square door, a window in the door, right? And anybody walking by can see it. It's super funny when Tim, when we moved offices at Haywood, there was a camera in my office, and he's like, it doesn't have audio, but it's got video in there. He said, but don't worry, I'll take it down since it's your office now. I was like, hey, brother, ain't no need.
Right.
You can leave that camera up, because there's just no part of my life that I'm going to have that can't be caught on camera at any time.
I'm going to tell you a little, again, over the top. I don't close the door.
Yeah.
And that is, I feel like we go way over. Now, if it's a man and a woman, certainly.
Right.
Close it for privacy and all that. But now if the woman's okay with Amy being there with me, which is not easy for everybody, not possible for some, then I'd close it, you know. Yeah. Or if she's okay with me and Linda, or you know, our assistant sitting in there. But I even go that far. If you're on an elevator, a woman walks on the elevator, get off.
Run.
Right.
Yeah,
Flee.
just get off. There's nothing against them, but
No.
that's just really. That was a Billy Graham rule.
And
by the way.
I felt the need to clarify this, because I took it, another example of a guardrail I gave yesterday, and this is, I know everybody's different on this stuff, but a guardrail I have is I actually don't watch any television with nudity in it. So, and I there's this tendency, I think, well, people will be like, well, is it because you're scared you might like what you see? And I'm like, well, no, but it's that I'm scared I might like what I see, you know, but that doesn't make me weaker than you. That makes me smarter,
more
than
honest.
you. Yeah.
Even. I would say, look, any man that would say, this is going to be very unpopular, probably, maybe a little cross the line here. Any man who would call into question, what, are you afraid you're gonna like what you see?
Yeah.
Any man who would say that, I would worry about them.
Yeah. Well,
because most, if not every man, would have to honestly say the flesh in them would like that.
Yeah, but I don't think that makes you weak. I think it makes you smart, because you know you're weak, number one. But
Certainly.
to me, as a pastor now for 10 years, you for longer, and you just getting out, what I've realized is that makes me a better pastor to the women in our church. Because here's what they can feel. Here's what any woman in our church can feel certain of, that we as men of God are out to honor men and women of God.
Sure.
And I just think it's interesting. This comes off crazy to people, but one thing I just really realized and was in processing is you don't want normal as it comes to the world and sex.
No.
The world and sex is messed up. You ready for this? 70% of men who come into church on Sunday morning will admit that they occasionally look at pornography.
Right.
Now, if 70% of men admit that they regularly look at pornography, here's what that means. They're consistently looking at pornography.
Yeah,
right?
right.
And then the other 20 are like, they just didn't want to admit it, right? The reason that's normal. Normal is 40% of children in the United States are born out of wedlock. That's normal. Normal is 40% of women under 40 are looking at pornography. If it means that I'm considered weird, give me weird. Sure. I'll take weird on this.
100%. If you do what everybody else does, you'll get what everybody else gets.
That's right.
Divorce rate's so high. If you do what everybody else does, that's where it's going to lead to. Be different.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, if your right eye calls you to sin, tear it out.
Yeah.
And I think Matthew had to be like writing down the Sermon on the Mount, and he tear it out. He had to be like,
How about that?
What?
That seems a little extreme,
Hey,
Jesus.
Let me give you a couple other, like if your spouse's phone gets a notification and your spouse is unwilling to talk about
Not
who
yeah.
texted or email, that's a major problem.
Yeah.
So like even all of those things, I just think your wife should be able to pick up your phone, open it up, and you not go, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah, none of your business.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, it's like, so Amy and I have no individual rights to our property.
Yeah.
There's no secret place. There's no place she can't look. There's no key she doesn't have. All those things are super basic, but that is not a majority of marriages.
Yeah.
I think the bad thing is you can't surprise your wife with a gift because she sees the Amazon.
That is super
It's a
hard.
drawback.
Yeah. So Jenna was like, "Hey, I bought you something for Valentine's Day, and it's a surprise." I was like, "It's not a surprise. We share the same Amazon account. I got the email. Thank you for my new book bag." You know what I mean? Like, Jonathan, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what would y'all say to a couple? Like, how would they approach that conversation?
Yeah.
Because, like, I think if you're not on that same page or not currently in that, what would y'all say to counsel that couple?
That's a great
Because I could
question.
see like a guy's telling his girlfriend, he's like, "Hey, like I want these boundaries in my life, but also in yours," and she might be like, "Well, you're controlling." Like,
That's right.
and that being a big thing.
Or
So
what
how
do you
would-
not trust me?
Yeah. So how would you approach that conversation?
You answer.
Mine's easy. So you need to get in but we're just super open. So like I'm overly transparent, and probably if one has that conviction, the other one doesn't, they need to get with somebody third party.
Yeah.
That'd be my advice, a pastor who does believe that, because at the end of the day, it goes back to, is it about you or is it about God? If your goal is to have a marriage, my goal is that when I'm breathing my last breath, to be holding the hand of the woman that I said I do to. And there's, I've said this 20 times, so I mean, it's nothing new, but like I've pastored 3 churches. I've known a ton of people, and I love a lot of people, but I'm convinced that the day I'm on my deathbed, there'll be a few friends, 5 kids, and a woman named Amy.
That's right.
And so I want to make sure that the decisions I'm making, who gives a rip if I'm giving up some liberty and letting her see my phone? I'm an idiot if I'm not willing to surrender that to save this. That matters most. And so it is that question of, is it me or is it God?
That's right.
And so that it's simple to me.
Yeah. And I would say if you're not married yet, number one, if you're not married, you should talk about as much as possible right now to start those conversations. Me and Jenna have not fought about a ton of things in marriage related to like surprises that came up because we talked about so much before we got married.
Right.
And so if you're dating somebody and you're not married and you are saying, "Hey, I want to live by this radical honesty, this radical transparency," and they say, "Well, that feels controlling," or "Do you not trust me?" Well, that shows me is even if they say that in good faith, they're not operating by the same mindset you are. And so I would just be completely honest. Even if I was close to marriage, but I recognized that was a different worldview, it would be enough for me to say, I can't marry this
Red
person.
flag.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's the two become one-ish.
That's right. And it's absolutely what it is. Here's what I've always thought was so interesting about that idea, 2 becomes 1. When 2 became 1 in the Bible, what was the dominating characteristic of their relationship? It was that they were naked and not afraid. Now, what is the naked and not afraid meant to convey? They weren't hiding anything.
Right.
Adam wasn't like, let's keep this back here. There were no fig leaves. Everything was uncovered. And it's so interesting so many times in today's relationships, even sexually or even just personally, people try to keep stuff separate. Well, this is my phone, that's his phone, or this is my bank account and that's his bank account.
Getting
I'm like,
controversial now. Here we go.
I'll be honest. I think if you, unless there's some extenuating circumstance I don't know about, and your family doesn't have access to all one finances, that's a major red flag for me.
Sure. Well,
Now, my wife doesn't have access to our checking account by choice.
It's not
She's
2
like,
becoming 1.
She's like, I don't know the passwords.
If we became 1, and this, Amy and I have this conversation all the time, because even us agreeing on it, it's easy to slip back into, well,
Still conversations.
But and she's just such. I would say it like this. She's like the best. she don't want to spend $100 without saying, "Hey, you good with this?"
Right.
But I do the same thing. Like I don't just go out and just buy a bass boat. That's like the least likely thing I'm doing.
That would be awesome if you bought a bass boat.
But I
You're
mean,
like, look at my bass boat, boys. I'm like, what are you going to do with that thing?
it's not like I don't think I'm a man.
That's right.
I'm going to talk to my wife because it's our money.
Yeah.
That's just
and
simple to me.
and now we're getting into next week's sermons for sure.
Yeah, you're right.
But there's such a process there where like some men think, well, I'm not the head of the household if I have to do something like that. No, you're just not a dummy.
Yeah.
You're just, then I get pragmatic. Do you not want to be happy? Do you want to have a miserable marriage? Yeah. Okay. Then go buy the bass boat without telling your wife. Thomas, tell us what you think about this. Hey, seriously though, as a single guy, this conversation of like purity and honoring God in this season, we've talked a lot about it from a married perspective. Right. What does this season look like for you as honestly, a lot of pressure as a man of God who wants to honor God, honor your future spouse, honor the people in the church. What's this season look like for you?
Yeah, for sure. It's looked like defining what I actually value the most, and that's honoring God. And I think any young guy listening should hear this, that you will go far as a girl will let you. That's the reality. So if you don't set the boundaries, those guardrails, like you have to be the one to lead in that area. Yeah. And so being extremely blunt, extremely intentional of how you set those boundaries in a way that you are the one leading in that area is extremely important, because that actually does a couple of different things. That protects your heart, but that also protects whoever you're with, her heart. Right. Like in that area, and I feel like that's you loving her extremely well to say, hey, I'm actually going to lead extremely well in this area. But yeah, as a young guy, even if you're not dating, there are still moments that are going to define what your future marriage is going to look like. And so I think a lie that culture will tell you is that actually what you do when you're single does not matter. But that's so far from the truth.
That's right.
Because what you'll do is you'll chase instant satisfaction now and just be burdened later with shame, guilt, and regret. Or you pursue purity now and holiness now in your relationship as you develop into the person that you need to be as a husband or wife, and reap the benefits later. Yeah. I've actually experienced this, that like God really does bless your relationship, even if it's dating, when you honor Him in it the most. So I can't even imagine how sweet it is to maintain that and bring that into marriage.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so like it was a couple weeks ago again when I got ahead of myself, because this would have been the week to really challenge the guys, but I do think this is totally true. So just kind of just echoing what you just said, if a guy really loves a girl, or if a guy really wants to love a girl and wants that girl to love him, then he should never have expectations that would lead her to not be pure.
That's right.
That, like, from a spiritual perspective, that's the least loving thing you can do.
That's right.
And so basically I told the girls, if a guy's pressuring you, he doesn't love you.
Yeah.
That's right. I said something more extreme.
Did you?
Can I say this?
You might as well now. You already told the boss.
You just said in church, you got to go in.
I was addressing the young people in the church. I say, hey, if someone is trying to get you to do something for them, and in order that they might give you love or something like that, like that's manipulative. And I said, just let me know. I'll get our safety team. We'll go burn their house down. Just kidding.
Thomas literally threatened to burn somebody's house down
in the name of Jesus.
Because I just told him, like, your body's not cheap.
No.
It's not a convenience for somebody else.
It's so expensive. I will go to jail for arson.
That's right. You were bought with a price. Like that is not a light matter.
No, that's awesome, bro. Yeah. Jonathan.
Yeah, I would like what Thomas was saying, and I think he hinted at what I was going to touch on, of like you were saying how Paul says to actively flee, like it's a continuous thing. Then he says in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 22, y'all say it with me. So flee youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord for a pure heart. So it's like, it's not just running away, but it's
Right.
running towards
That's
something.
good. That's right.
Because like
That's great.
boundaries and lines can sort of fade sometimes. You can slowly fade
Yeah.
through, but if you're pursuing away from that thing, then you're never going to even
Yeah.
touch the boundary.
The reason why that's such an important qualification is the Puritans used to say when someone had given their life to Christ, they would say someone is that they had been seized by a great affection, and the reason why I feel like we probably do need a little language for that in modern times is that we can focus so much on not doing something that we forget that the reason we actually do the right things because we have we've been made new creations, right? We've been seized by a great affection, and now the things that we love are different. This is actually the whole point of the passage opening up where Paul says, all things are lawful for me. And that's a quote. The Corinthians are actually taking a quote that Paul used when he was in Corinth, and they're using it as a reason to sin. And what Paul's saying is all things are lawful for me doesn't mean I can do whatever I want. No, he's saying all things are lawful for me means because my heart has changed, I'm doing whatever he wants. In other words, Paul's saying I don't need no 10 commandments.
That's right.
10 commandments are for people who don't love God. I obey the law because I love God. I don't murder people because I love God. And I thought that's such a,
That's good.
And so what Paul does is he says, flee sexual immorality, but the end of the passage says, so honor God with your body. There's actually a higher purpose that you're supposed to do, and instead of just running away, and this I ran out of time, but man, I'd have loved to close with this. You're not just running away, you're running to an objective. You're going, your objective is to honor God in your body so that on your deathbed, you lived a life well lived.
And I think a lot of people think circumstantially. I wish I'd have been able to preach this part of it, since I didn't preach any part of it. But yesterday, but the whole idea of Joseph,
Yeah,
Potiphar's wife.
that's right.
I love the fact that it really removes any excuse from a circumstantial perspective. Like, okay, well, I hear what you're saying, but you don't understand my circumstances.
Yeah,
If I don't do this, he'll leave me.
that's right.
If I don't do this, he won't love me. If I don't do this, this or that. The expectation of my boys,
right.
whatever, And this, so like all those circumstances. Well, Joseph literally ran from. He fled. And here's the weird thing: he definitely was running toward the purpose and purity, all that God had called him to. But really, the pathway to become governor was through a dungeon.
Right. He had to go to jail.
Totally went
Yeah.
to jail because he did the right thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get to talk about Joseph at all yesterday, but the perfect example of fleeing sexual immorality is Joseph.
That's right.
I had never caught this. I heard another preacher say it, and I thought, man, this is beautiful. But Joseph, in Genesis 39, it says that he was handsome in form and appearance. Now, let's just be clear. If the Bible says you're handsome in form and appearance, yeah, man, I'm thinking
Must have been a good-looking dude.
for sure. And then, so the master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph and said, lie with me. But he refused and said to his master's wife, behold, because of my master has no concern about anything, blah, blah. He says, he is not great. And she spoke to Joseph, verse 10, day after day.
Yeah.
So she kept
She was
on.
persistent.
And listen to this. He would not listen to her to lie beside her. And I'd never seen this last part. So he didn't listen to her to sleep with her, but he also says to lie beside her or to be with her. Not only did he not go lie with her, he stayed far away.
He avoided her presence.
Potiphar's wife every day was like, Joseph, I need you to make tea. And he was like, hey, you go in there and make that woman her tea because I'm going to be out here in the shed.
That's right.
And I just thought, I never had seen that. He didn't even go near it. So often, man, we negotiate. I told this story. All right, I'm going to see if you get it, and then we'll wrap up. We negotiate with what can kill us. So man wants a fur coat, so he goes into the woods to kill a bear. He gets the bear in his sights. The bear stands up and says, he puts his hands in there and says, whoa, let's talk about this. What is it that you want? The man says, I want a fur coat. The bear says, that is a perfectly reasonable thing to want. He says, can I tell you what I want? And the hunter said, yeah, tell me what you want. The bear said, I want a full stomach. And the hunter said, well, that is a reasonable thing to want. And they decided both had reasonable expectations, so they sat down to negotiate. When the negotiations were done, the bear walked out of the woods alone, and the hunter had a fur coat, and the bear had a full stomach. I told that yesterday, and you could tell about half the crowd got it. The other half didn't. But we negotiate with stuff that can kill us.
Yeah, my question really was, does a man really need a fur coat?
That man wanted one.
Question. Go back to gender and identity for a minute here.
But we negotiate with things that'll kill us.
Yeah.
And the hard part about sin is if you won't sin, you can have it.
Sure.
It's just not going to give you what you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not going to satisfy.
Any final words, gentlemen?
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thomas, man, we're glad to have you on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thomas is the best of us, man.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Super proud.
God's using him.
Super proud of what God's doing in Lawrence. And, man, we'll have you on again, and we'll try to get you a coat that's not quite as girly next time. So it'll be awesome, all right?